Let's talk consumer protection. So this is another area that's so important in the state of Colorado. One of the bills that we're looking back on this year and very proud of is HB 1099, which works to create more transparency in those online marketplaces. Increasingly people are able to sell things online. We think that's a good thing, to have access to other folks and be able to sell those, your goods to a wider group of people. But we've also seen that this is a place where oftentimes companies are able to produce counterfeit items and then get around some of our consumer protection laws, whether it's masks, during the public health crises that we've had, or whether it's toys. We do an annual toy safety survey. So we were really excited to see that bill come forward to just require more transparency around who's selling those products. And it was great to be able to testify shoulder to shoulder with you and see that you were out there not just making the consumer protection case, but also highlighting a public safety aspect to this too. What was it about that bill that brought you forward to the Capitol and leading on this issue?
Let me start with that connection, Danny. Those who scam, prey on and defraud people often are engaging in criminal activities. And a challenge that we are focused on is, how do we bring them to justice? How do we hold them accountable? We've been involved in criminal fraud cases on the Eastern Slope, going after someone who purportedly was selling pole barns, but took the money, didn't deliver, to someone on the Western Slope who was engaging in roofing contractor fraud. We need to use all the tools we can. Part of the challenge with this online fraud, where someone says, I'm selling something, but then it might be counterfeit or in many cases stolen, is those buying it are not likely to get satisfaction because the seller is not a reputable seller. And unfortunately, Facebook Marketplace, take an obvious example, was enabling this conduct by having people sell anonymously without any accountability. This is a principle that we also got legislation around catalytic converter theft too. If you allow that intermediary to be, in a sense, letting people off the hook with no traceability, no accountability, crimes and frauds can happen and consumers are left holding the bag. By contrast, what this law did is make the seller have to give their identifying information, proof of who they are. That way, the intermediary is enabling them to be held accountable if they engage in misdeeds. So this was an important law, and this is an important overall principle that I'm fighting for. In this new economic environment with a lot of online activity, we can't allow consumers to be harmed. We need to protect consumers. So another law we're implementing, Danny, I know you guys have been watching it too, is the Colorado Privacy Act, which is giving consumers control of their data. So consumers don't end up having their information getting sold to these data miners and others without their knowledge, awareness, and in some cases, in a way that harms them because bad information gets out there about them.
Absolutely. One thing that I loved about that bill, HB 1099, was just the broad support there was. So not only were you there testifying, consumer groups like mine, retailers, district attorneys, I mean, and it was a bipartisan bill. Can you speak a little bit to just the collaboration that you've seen in this space?
Well, first off, this is part of who we are in Colorado. We are collaborators, we're problem solvers. It's not an accident, for example, if the methane rule governing methane emissions was developed here in Colorado. It's not an example, it's not surprising that we are one of the first states to have a Colorado Privacy Act. I think only California and Virginia beat us in that regard. We are collaborators, we are innovators in Colorado. I also would say Colorado believes in responsible business. There's so many small businesses out there that are doing everything the right way. They treat their workers right, they treat their customers right, and people trust them. When it comes to those engaging in this fraudulent behavior, it harms everybody. It harms workers, harms consumers, and in many cases can harm public safety too. So we all have to come together to defend this principle, that when we make sure the marketplace is filled with responsible actors, we all win. If we don't go after those irresponsible actors and hold them accountable, it undermines faith in the marketplace and hurts people.
Absolutely. And then the last thing to check in on, even though it was over a year ago when we passed this bill to create a statewide Office of Financial Empowerment, it's exciting to check on it this year because it's up and running. And so one of the things we were excited about, we've worked long and hard to ensure that there are no predatory lenders that may prey on people who are having trouble making ends meet. we helped pass an initiative around payday lending to eliminate that triple interest product that was on the marketplace, taking advantage of people, putting them into a cycle of debt. But one of the things we've recognized is, it's important to get at the front end, not just when people have already gotten into trouble and gotten into that cycle of debt, but actually protecting people right up front. And this Office of Financial Empowerment, something we saw local governments were doing, offering tools, whether it's, better financial products, affordable products, or getting people connected to financial counseling, or getting people connected on the back end to the resources and services that, that Attorney General's offices and others provide. It felt like a really good model. So it's really exciting to see. I think Colorado is the first state to have a statewide Office of Financial Empowerment. It's officially launched. Can you talk a little bit about, that launch and what you're already doing?
So again, Danny, you were superbly effective in the legislature making the case for this model. It does result from our collaboration in Colorado, our willingness to work together to solve problems. And Carmina Lass, who's now our executive director, is doing a spectacular job. For many people who are struggling financially, we need to take a step back and ask, what are some steps that can help people avoid the deep hole that so many get in, where they're mired in debt, they build either no or bad credit, and they don't see any way out. If we can help the opposite, help people build good credit, help people build banking relationships, avoid excessive debt, what impact we can have on people's lives is really special. That's what this office is doing, working with those local leaders and helping to build more local capacity around the state. Also sponsoring this initiative called Bank On, getting the private sector, really a public-private partnership, to make sure to take those extra efforts to help those people who may lack a bank account to get one and be better off as a result.
Absolutely. And can you talk a little bit about why it's important to be in the Attorney General's office? I think a lot of people think, oh, well, you're the litigator, you're just out there litigating. Why is it important for you to have a resource like this? And how does that overlap and make your office even more effective?
Anytime we can build tools on the front end that prevent bad things from happening, I'm thrilled. If I can prevent scammers from preying on people and stealing their identity, I'd rather do that than go after those who engage in identity theft. If I can help, back to that earlier conversation we're having about people selling in these online marketplaces, if I can help avoid unaccountable fraudsters by having people having to say who they are so we can go after them, that's a effective crime prevention model. So we are looking at predatory lending. We are looking at people who are deep in cycles of debt and being subject to different forms of debt collection that may be abusive. But I'd much rather work on the front end, helping people build better financial habits, be in better financial health so they're not vulnerable.
Absolutely. And as a reminder to everyone, if you ever have an issue out there, it's important to raise it with the Attorney General's office. Stop Fraud Colorado is the website. And can you just say one word maybe about, or not literally one word, but something about how when somebody actually uses that site, it gets seen, it gets heard. Can you talk a little bit about how that site is an effective tool?
Whatever your complaint is, predatory lending, abusive debt collection, misleading, deceptive fees, what have you, we need to know about it at stopfraudcolorado.gov. When you tell us, we can go after a wrongdoer, in some cases get money back from you. In other cases, we may hold them criminally or civilly accountable. And we also learn about what are the scams out there so we can warn others. That's something that's special about Colorado. We're in this work to protect one another. Please don't let others be scammed. Stay alert. Spread the word. Stopfraudcolorado.gov.
Great. Well, it was a great year on consumer protection on the environment. Thank you so much for all your hard work. It was really great to be able to collaborate with you and work with you over this last year. So thank you very much, Attorney General.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for all your work, Danny.
All right. Bye.